and political commentator Stephen Barrett. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, good evening. It's good to be here.
Always a pleasure. Okay. Now, first of all, let's talk about, I think there's an argument now that Britain may have inadvertently almost imported a sex crime epidemic. We're talking about asylum seekers. We're talking about foreign nationals. We're talking about migrants who are all let into this country, and an alarmingly disproportionate number of them are committing sex offences. The statistics are quite worrying, to say the least. Let's run through some of them, shall we? We're talking about this because yesterday or today we learned that yet another asylum seeker has been jailed for rape. This guy's name was Mehmet Ogur. He was living at taxpayers' expense at the Holiday Inn Express Hotel in Tamworth, Staffordshire. 27-year-old Ogur attacked an 18-year-old girl in a park. Stafford Crown Court heard how he sent his victim a message subsequently to say, "I'm really sorry. I didn't actually want to do this, but I couldn't stop myself. I am sorry for trying to force you to have sex." I think you'll find he did a lot more than try to force that poor girl to have sex. He did force her to have sex because he was found guilty not only of attempted rape but of rape, and has been sentenced to 7 years in jail. Now we come to the statistics. Now we've heard, you know, we all remember the terrible Warwickshire case of the two allegedly 17-year-old Afghanis who raped that poor 15-year-old vulnerable girl. I remember last year, I believe it was an Afghanistan national arrived here, was immediately billeted in a hotel in Falkirk in Scotland, walked straight out, found himself a vulnerable 15-year-old girl, always underage, took her behind a pub and viciously raped her, got 12 years. These are just a couple of examples. There are many more, as we know. Here's the statistics. So from 2021 to 2023, of the total of 16,771 sex offence convictions, around 2,500 were of foreign nationals. That is 15% of sex crimes where nationality was specified. So in quite a few cases, nationality never comes up. It's not recorded, which in itself is a bit of a scandal. We do need to know these details. Experts believe that if nationality was known in every case of sex offences, sex convictions, the figure could be as high as 23%. The statistics, the frightening statistics go on. Between 2021 and 2023, foreign nationals were 71% more likely to be convicted of sex crimes than British citizens. And from 2021 until last year, 2024, the number of sex offence convictions for foreigners increased by 62%, as opposed to a 39% increase for British nationals. We have, Stephen, as I said originally in my monologue, we've imported a sex crime epidemic, haven't we?
Well, you and I didn't do it, Kev, but successive governments have done this.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that is Tory governments and Labour governments. But what has really done this is that there has been an omerta amongst so-called elite people that if you dared to oppose boat migration, you were a racist, and therefore you were, you know, not a respectable person. You must be cast out and cancelled from life. This is utterly stupid. This has got nothing to do with race. I note, by the way, that those British nationals who are not committing the sex crimes, or who are committing far fewer proportionate sex crimes, are very diverse people, because we are a very diverse country. So the idea that this is about ethnicity or race is just absurd on its own merit. Mm-hmm. You do not let a bunch of men commit a crime and break into your country, then reward them with free stuff and accommodation and food and money, and then expect them to behave well. And I don't care what ethnicity any of those young men are. It doesn't make the slightest bit of difference. You simply don't let them do it. We wouldn't let the Russian army arrive here by, or I hope we wouldn't let the Russian army arrive here by dinghy. And we simply cannot have the world's criminals arriving by soft boat and then being just treated as though they're visiting celebrities, which is what we've done. Labour have absolutely intensified this. I know your stats were from 2020 to 2023. It comes out as something that's over 2 a day. That's a day. You know, that we are hearing these stories daily, and often because I'm a bit obsessed with Twitter, I see these stories, and you do see more than one a day. Now that's where we are at. This is objectively stupid. Our Prime Minister has done nothing to smash the gangs. He promised that he would stop this. We should have a border. We can enforce a border. And yet successive governments, be they Conservative or Labour, have done nothing.
Exactly right. And the Sun newspaper and the Mail on Sunday, back in the summer, went through all the convictions and the charges, mainly charges of not just sex offences but serious criminal offences, a lot of violent offences included. And they found that court records showed that at least 1 in every 100 migrants housed in asylum seeker hotels has been hauled before magistrates, or was hauled before magistrates last year. Now, this was around about July that this story was printed by the Sun, and at that point they had collated a total of 339 cases. Now, the thing is, Stephen, I mean, so this is a thing. There is something going on here. We have imported a lot of mainly young men, and we're going to classify them like this, not of military age, which of course they are, but more germanely to this discussion, of sexually active age. They are usually between the ages of 16 and 35. They come here from different cultures, where women are perhaps not so respected as they are here. They also come from cultures where women are covered up from ankle to head. They come here where British women, of course, are allowed to dress exactly how they want, quite rightly. And it seems to be a rather volatile cocktail.
Of course it is.
So we have imported a sex crime epidemic and arguably also a crime epidemic. We don't speak about this enough, do we?
No, we also need to talk about how the lessons we're teaching them, because we are sending signals, okay? So they know that they are illegal migrants, and they are crowded round France's beaches, desperately trying to commit crime again. They know that they are criminals, and they know that when they come here, with the lesson we will teach them, the British state will not treat them toughly, will not treat them harshly, will not deal with them like a responsible parent would to any wayward child. No, the British state will fake them, will give them free money and luxury hotels and food and everything else, and we won't criticize them. And there's some evidence. I mean, the amount of luxuries poured on their heads is absolutely ridiculous. And by doing that, we are sending a message: please come, please treat us like absolute scum. We have no self-respect. That's the message our island is sending. Come here, nick our money, do whatever you want to our children and our women. We have no self-respect. We're not going to do anything to you. The places that a lot of these people come from would never allow them to get away with this. So the fact that they mouth it off in court and our judges and our lawyers nod along as though it's in any way rational is complete gibberish. Again, it's a sort of inverse racism of the British state. A lot of the places these people come from would deal with them very severely if they tried any of this with them. You know, they'll all have the death penalty and be more than happy to deal with wrong-uns. We are constantly sending the message: come to Britain, steal our stuff, do whatever you like to our children and women. We have no self-respect as a country. We will let you do whatever you like, and we'll feed you and house you and make you warm while you do it.
I think while we're at it, Stephen, we should be telling these people that we allow into the country no questions asked. We don't know anything about most of them. We have know, over 100,000 around the country, asylum seekers. 30,000 or so of them are in hotels. Others are in other forms of accommodation, houses of multiple occupation, military camps, and so on. They're all over the country. And frankly, too many of them do not respect us. We should be talking to these people and say, listen, you are our guests. We expect you to treat this country with respect, and we expect you to behave in a way that is commensurate with the courtesy we have treated you. But no. What was it? There was a case 3 weeks ago. More and more, as a barrister, you'll know about this. I don't blame barristers for doing this, but more and more you get these asylum seekers, migrants in the dock accused of rape or sexual assault, and the defence is, well, you see, where he comes from, Afghanistan, Syria, or wherever, you know, they don't sort of feel that rape is quite as bad as it is. It's the cultural difference. And what was that case about 3 or 4 weeks ago? The Moroccan guy who actually, his lawyers claimed in court, because he got done for upskirting, his lawyers claimed in court, oh, well, the thing is, he comes from Morocco. It's upskirting is not a problem in Morocco. I guess largely in Morocco it would be up-burkering or something. Well, we looked it up. It's absolutely, quite rightly against the law in Morocco to upskirt. So the fact that more and more of these accused migrants and asylum seekers, their lawyers say, well, they're coming from countries where they don't quite understand our laws, they have different attitudes to women. Do you see, Your Honour? That's what's going on day in, day out. This is insane.
It's insane. It's also based on a form of racism that we are increasingly discovering that a lot of these so-called anti-racists who scream racist left, right and centre are actually quite racist. You have to be pretty racist to think that Morocco would allow people, men, to just go around.
Exactly what I thought. Yeah.
What a ridiculous idea. Morocco is a very civilized country. It's developed. You know, the idea that it's some sort of backward hellhole is itself a racist assumption. And we should reject it. They will not treat us with respect until we have self-respect for ourselves. And what gets me is that we have people like Lord Justice Bean, who sat on the Bell Hotel Epping case, a former Fabian who makes judgments and says things like these men are not de facto a danger. They are. So I don't really want the judges involved in this, because I think it corrupts them. I think he's destroyed his reputation, and I think he's damaged the reputation of the judiciary. But we shouldn't have judges saying obviously stupid things. These men are obviously dangerous. They should be treated as de facto dangerous, and they should probably be locked up until we can determine who they are and what they are doing here, and until we can get rid of them. The idea that you just put a bunch of people who break into your country and who lie about who they are, who destroy their documentation, you just put them in a bunch of hotels in Tamworth and Nuneaton and everything will be fine, is obviously stupid. Our elite are obviously stupid, Kev.
They really are stupid. I mean, I'll give you one more case. You could go on for hours about the various cases that highlight the horror of what's going on in this country right now. But I remember last year there was the case of the... he said he was a schoolboy from somewhere like something like Afghanistan, or it might have been Syria. He arrived in Bournemouth. He ended up in, and they put him into a school. It turned out he was not a schoolboy. He was like in his 20s, and he was a double murderer from Serbia. We didn't know that about him, and guess what? He went out on the town in Bournemouth to a nightclub and murdered someone. This is the insanity in which we are living, and I think British people shouldn't have to live like this. This is madness. Folks, you let me know what you think. Have we, and do we continue to import a sex crime epidemic? And anyone who wants to say, oh yeah, well, the vast majority of rapes are by, you know, what British blokes, you know, white British citizens, males. Yeah, of course they are. Because we have 79 million or 70 million people living in this country, and most of them are white and British. However, Do not let the Guardian readers delude you. The amount of sex crimes committed by asylum seekers and migrants is disproportionately off the scale. The percentages are terrifying. Let me know what you think, folks. 0344 499 1000. I'm still with Stephen Barrett, and when Stephen and I come back after these messages, we're going to talk more about the migrant crisis. And Stephen, you're going to love it. An incredible claim that two-tier Keir Starmer made to his MPs last night. You will not believe it. That next, folks. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm still with barrister and political and social commentator Stephen Barrett. You're going to love this one, Stephen. Last night, you know, like there's a lot of disquiet, as you can imagine, among Labour MPs, the backbenchers, the MPs who worry about their chances of being re-elected. They're not happy with the performance of this government on so many levels, in so many areas, as you can imagine: the economy, the cost of living crisis, net zero, etc., 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 and of course the migrant crisis, which recently was classified as the #1 concern of British people. It's not the economy stupid, it's the migrant crisis stupid. And I'm not talking to you, of course. I'm just paraphrasing Bill Clinton. So he called together, you're going to love this, he called together all the Labour MPs last night for a special meeting last night. Uncharacteristically, he arrived 8 minutes early. He's apparently notoriously late for this kind of thing. He turned up. Guess what he told them? This is a quote. "Immigration is firmly under control." What planet is this guy on?
He just lies, Kev. That's all he is. They just lie. They come from a school of thought. If viewers and listeners will forgive me, but it's from this intellectual called Foucault. It's called postmodernism. They don't believe there is any objective reality, so they just think that they can control truth by lying.
Yep.
If they lie often enough, we'll just believe them. It's complete nonsense. And whenever humans believe this, they've gone completely off the cliff of rationality, because there is objective rationality and objective truth, Kev. That's what walls are. And if you think there's no objective truth, run head first at the nearest wall and tell me how you do. But that's what he is, and this is why he's boycotting Twitter, because he's been community noted 21 times. That's 21 lies. I mean, I think Andrew
I
Neil...
didn't realise that. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. He wants to be able to lie freely. So let's say how that must have gone down. There are still decent people inside Labour.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, I flag up Jonathan Hinder, who's exceptionally good on stopping the puberty blocker trial that's going to mutilate kids. He's solid on that. There's another Labour MP called Graham Stringer who tried to defend the Chagos Islands. He's an absolutely solid bloke. So they will have sat there in this room knowing that he's lying through his teeth. And the only person who will have believed him is a moron like Tris Osborne, who just claps like a seal and believes any lie that Keir Starmer tells him.
Yeah, Tris, he's a Kent MP, isn't he? He's the one who, after 4 weeks of terrible weather, announced, and no migrant crosses, announced, yes, Labour's policies have solved the migrant crisis. The following day, after 4 weeks of no crossings, something like 780 people came across the channel. So that's Tristan Osborne for you.
But I mean, the brilliant wit that is Andrew Doyle created Titiana McGrath, and if it turns out that actually he's created this character of Tris Osborne, who is a fictitious Labour MP who just believes anything that the party says, I would believe that. That is now
Except
plausible.
Tris Osborne really does exist. There's another Kent MP who I think they've elevated to some minor ministerial role. He's the MP for Dover, Mike Tapp. He is, even by parliamentary standards, incredibly stupid. It's something to do with Kent MPs, I suppose. Perhaps I shouldn't besmirch all of them. But meanwhile, still with the migrant crisis, as Keir Starmer was assuring his MPs, immigration is firmly under control. What? It has been revealed, the Sun has revealed this. We have detention centre places, detention centres. It is a detention centre, but it's in 2 sites near Heathrow Airport. One in a place called Harmonsworth, I think, and the other in Colnbrook, which is around the airport, right? These places have 1,093 sort of rooms and beds, places for 1,093 migrants. The Sun has revealed today that each of these places costs taxpayers nearly £100,000 a year. As this depressing statistic emerges, we learn of Labour's latest weapon, the killer blow that they've come up with to destroy the migrant crisis forever. They've joined TikTok, and they've got an account called Secure Borders UK, which is caveated with the slogan "Restoring order and control to our borders." This TikTok page includes footage of illegal migrants and foreign crooks being arrested, detained and deported. As if that happens all the time. I mean, it's very rare, isn't it? But going on to TikTok, isn't that a sign of the desperation of this government?
Well, he's just a pathetic and weak man. They are not controlling our border, and these men know it. That's why they come to France, to come here, get free housing, get free everything, free dentistry that we can't, by the way, access, priority GP treatment, all sorts of things that they get. That's because we are pathetic and weak. And we as a country need to have some self-respect again, because this really goes down to self-respect. Okay, they've ground us down. Okay, for years they've tried to pretend that we're racist and that there's something about our history that is uniquely bad, despite the fact that we are one of the only human civilizations to have ever abolished slavery, which is I take as a pretty high win. But, we have to have some self-esteem. We have to have some self-respect. And we have to demand that they do not treat us like this. This is not acceptable. And the men who do this, I sort of don't blame them half as much as I blame the government. It is the government who is doing this. This is Shabana Mahmood who lied. Do you remember? Only a few months ago, she pretended that she'd got all sorts of new measures in place, which are complete tissue of nonsense. The woman has encouraged migration here, and we are incentivizing them to come. The idea that a TikTok account is going to achieve anything is complete nonsense. But this is it. We live in the age of weak, petty tyrants, and it's about time we got some self-respect and got rid of them.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that the Labour government has gone on to, or the Home Office has gone on to TikTok, apparently we're told, is to tackle misinformation on social media sites. Thank you very much from Labour. That's the most intriguing declaration since the BBC last week said that it must continue to be on X, on Twitter, to tackle misinformation. Well, all of you work at the BBC, or all of you are in the Labour Party or in the Labour government. Let me explain to you that you guys and women are the source of the misinformation. The level of self-delusion here is off the scale, isn't it?
It is. It is, Kev. I mean, particularly on Iran, we're now seeing. I mean, the BBC is still trying to run the argument that there's some sort of economic protest going on when the country is actually rising up and trying to throw off Islamic dictators who oppress them and treat them like absolute scum. I mean, I don't mean to bring it up, but God willing that Iran might be free. The BBC is not the source of truth. It's not a source of respectability. The only people who believe it are Tris Osborne. I mean, that's it.
And Mike Tapp.
Well, I don't know. I find him a rather rougher piece of work. I'm not convinced he is. I think Tris Osborne is innocent but stupid. Yeah. Whereas I'm not convinced that Tapp or Brash are. And before we besmirch Kent MP,
I want to talk about every. I think Mike Tapp is pretty stupid, to be fair.
He's vicious, though. I don't think he's nasty. He's just an idiot.
He before blocking me, he threatened to block me. I said, "Did you promise?" On Twitter, I said, "Do you promise?" And so he did. So he's out of my life. But he's the guy that goes. He goes onto the cliffs of Dover, playing kind of patriotic music, saying Labour is the patriotic party that will solve the migrant crisis. Mike, it isn't, and we can see it's not. Listen, Stephen, let's go to break now. When we come back, we'll return to, what I would say is an issue of free speech and Labour's insistence that it is deadly serious about potentially closing the world's biggest social media site, X, or Twitter as we all still call it. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back. I'm still with barrister and political commentator Stephen Barrett. Stephen, bear with me because I've got to break some breaking news. The Times newspaper, part of this building, same company as Talk, has just reported, we'll bring you the gory details as soon as we can, it's just reported that Keir Starmer has abandoned plans for mandatory digital ID for workers amid concerns that it will undermine public trust in the scheme. Instead, they will be optional when they are introduced in 2029, with workers given the choice of whether to use other documents to verify their identity digitally instead. I'm not sure what he means by workers, but this looks like the makings of yet another legendary Keir Starmer U-turn.
Well, he'll just tell Tris Osborne that he hasn't done a U-turn, and Tris will believe him. So, you know, the Ralph Wiggum of politics will strike again. But it does look like U-turn 13 in major U-turns.
It is literally the 13th U-turn. If this is, as the Times is reporting, this will be his 13th U-turn. Unlucky for some, unlucky for his reputation for making decisions and sticking to them, right?
Well, he just is a liar. I mean, I can remember the day when I would not have gone on television or broadcast anything accusing anybody from any party of being a liar. You would hold back and you would say, well, I disagree with them, and you know perhaps they're understanding something differently, and you try and work it out. It's still technically the rule in the House of Commons that you can't call him a liar, but he is a liar. That's all he does, and this is incredibly difficult for the system to deal with because we are used to having prime ministers from all parties and and all backgrounds who try at least to tell the truth, even if they have different opinions and different approaches. I don't believe this man even tries, and so I don't trust him that this is a full U-turn, because he's very good at doing partial U-turns. I mean, like the farm tax, where they're like, oh, well, we'll U-turn on anybody under something like, it's either 5 million or 10 million. Yeah. So we'll still cause the others to commit suicide. Oh, thanks. Great work. Yeah. The pub tax U-turn, where we might save pubs, but every other bit of the high street is going to be completely screwed over. So, look forward to completely empty high street. I hope this is a major U-turn.
I think it is, Stephen. Let me just give you, I've got a few more details here. They're sketchy, but if you recall, the whole idea, or one of the main reasons that Labour pretended they needed digital IDs would be that they would be compulsory to verify someone's right to work in the UK. So you had to produce your digital ID to get a job. The idea was this will stop the black market economy with migrants and asylum seekers landing jobs all over the place when they shouldn't. So that's what it was all about, mainly to verify they made a big thing of it, remember, to verify someone's right to work in the UK. What they are now saying is that these digital ID cards will be optional when they are introduced in 2029, with workers given the choice of whether to use other documents to verify their identity digitally instead. Now, if you say to the British people, right, we're bringing in this £5 billion digital ID scheme. By the way, various government departments are currently scraping together £1.8 billion to launch the initial stages of this scheme, this Soviet-style papers, please system that nobody in this country wants. Well, if the government looks as if this is going to be the case, this is the Times, this is not a sensationalist publication. If the government is going to make this not compulsory, is going to make it your choice, whether or not you have one, everybody's just going to say, I don't want one. So that's it. The digital ID scheme, if this story is true, is now officially dead. No one's going to go, do you know what, you don't have to have a digital ID card, but I'd love to have one. People just aren't going to have them. So there it is. You know, £1.8 billion scheme. Last week we learned that every government department has been told to make savings to scrape together £1.8 billion to launch the initial stages of this scheme. Now it's going to be optional. People just won't have it. So that's the end of this scheme, if this story is true, which I'm sure it is. That's extraordinary.
Well, I mean, communism and socialism are nasty and incompetent, and people forget just because it's. I mean, look, I focus on the nasty part, and it's true, but the incompetent part is also there. It's always there. The USSR wasn't capable of running itself. It was a basket case. That's why communism fails. Yeah. And this is just yet more basket caseness. I mean, they don't know their proverbial from their elbow, and you know they haven't the slightest clue what they're doing. They tried to pretend they were bringing in or getting rid of trial by jury, our 800-year-old right, our 800-year-old freedom, getting rid of that to get rid of the backlog, and then up stands Sarah Sackman in the House and says, oh well, even if there wasn't a backlog, we'd still get rid of it. So you just can't trust them as far as you can throw them. I mean, they say it's about work, but I've got a national insurance number, so have you.
Yeah, we never needed them.
Any employer can just use that.
Yeah, we don't need them. And this is a government source that told the Times that the compulsory element in terms of people being able to work, being able to get a job, quotes, was stopping conversation about what digital IDs could be used for generally. I think they're talking about the NHS, social services, etc. The source went on, stepping back from mandatory use cases will deflate one of the main points of contention. This is interesting. We do not want to risk there being cases of some 65-year-old in a rural area being barred from working because he hasn't installed the ID. In other words, digital IDs are going to be optional. I know what option the vast majority of British citizens are going to take. There it goes, folks. Digital IDs. Nice when we knew you. Bye-bye. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You really have to question Labour ministers who are willing to keep going out defending this guy when he constantly U-turns. I mean, that is the absolute lowest of the low. What they all go on the channels, they all go on talk, they go on the television to defend his nonsense policies, and then the man U-turns on them and just throws them under a bus. That is not a respectable Prime Minister. That is not a respectable politician. Yeah. That is a joke of a man desperately clinging to office, which is all he's doing.
Yeah, and it's another example of this guy not really thinking things through, announcing them, a la the winter fuel allowance, the farmer's inheritance tax, not really thinking it through, suddenly receiving, after these announcements, this sort of avalanche of criticism and people being very, very fed up. He's stunned by the level of the protest. So what does he do? Oh, I know, I'll get rid of that policy. I'll U-turn. He's done it again by the looks of it. That is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. Folks, let me know what you mean. Will you, now that digital IDs are not going to be compulsory, now that they are going to be optional, do you want one? Will you have one? I know what my answer is. Just quickly before we go to break, Stephen, I was going to ask you about X and Twitter. The government insisting it's deadly serious about shutting down the world's biggest social media site. I think it's more about its hatred of Elon Musk than anything else. Keir Starmer hasn't posted one of his asinine tweets on X now for 5 or 6 days, since last Thursday. But interestingly, Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, yesterday put out several tweets about the horror in Iran. Pretty feeble tweets, of course. They call upon the Ayatollah to respect the right of Iranian citizens to peacefully protest. Yeah, Yvette, thanks for that. They've just killed 12,000 of them, so don't think they're really respecting the right to peacefully protest all that much, really. But she tweeted, so she's still using it. He hasn't used it since last Thursday. the row is ostensibly, allegedly, about this Grok facility, which people are using to take women's heads, like Julia Hartley-Brewer, who was subjected to this, and put a sort of bikini body on. I think that's terrible, and I think that's an intrusion on women's privacy and their dignity. But is it the worst offence on social media, where you get out-and-out hard porn, pedo porn, kids being exposed to that? That's serious. You know, women having bikini bodies put underneath their necks, you know, that's bad. It should be somehow stopped. But it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't think this is about worrying about bikini bodies. It's because Labour hate Elon Musk and they want to kick him where it hurts, right?
Yeah, and they just lie. And we're going to have to deal with this. I think it's going to be really hard for a lot of the country, because I still think an awful lot of us are used to a government that at least tries to be honest. And I'm really not sure that this government even tries. They just seem to be willing to say absolutely anything if it will get them the conclusion that they want. The idea, by the way, that he's going to shut down Twitter is complete nonsense. These are nasty and incompetent and weak people. Yeah. Elon will just sue them into oblivion. This is not happening. So that the whole thing is pathetic. Yvette is defying the ban because they're all desperate to have his job. And the real tragedy of the Labour Party is that there's no obvious successor, or that I always get shot down when I suggest my chosen candidate, so I'm not going to do that.
Go on, then, who is it again? Who is it?
Well, I actually favour Angela Rayner, but that usually gets shot down pretty quick.
Yeah.
But,
can I just shoot you down about that?
well, it shouldn't be Tris Osborne, all right? Yeah. Let's just all agree that. But,
okay, or Mike Tapp.
But the simple fact is, because they're a cult that recruits upon loyalty rather than merit, they don't have an obvious successor to them, because none of them have any skills or talents, because they weren't hired on the basis of skills or talent. And that is it's playing out in real time, and the public should see that. A properly functioning Labour Party would have reserves. It would have skilled people able to bring them up from the lower ranks, because that's how they were working. But you know, I don't think the Labour Party is going to be in any way functional until Graham Stringer and Maurice Glassman are in charge of it again, and Rosie Duffield is back.
Sensible people, I agree. Now, in the interests of a balance, it's only fair. Labour, Liz Kendall, for example, the Technology Secretary, will insist, as does Keir Starmer, this is nothing about Elon Musk. This is about, you know, protecting women and children on social media. That is their line. Here is the Technology Secretary, Liz Kendall, explaining that.
But X does not have to wait for the Ofcom investigation to conclude. They can choose to act sooner to ensure this abhorrent and illegal material cannot be shared on their platform. If they do not, Ofcom will have the backing of this government to use the full powers which Parliament has given them. And I would remind X and all other platforms that this includes the power to issue fines of up to 10% of a company's worldwide qualifying revenue. And in the most serious cases, Ofcom can apply for a court order to stop UK users accessing the site.
That is Labour's official line, as Liz Kendall just said. They have instigated an Ofcom investigation into this Grok syndrome. So that is their line. I think Stephen and I and many people believe our contention is this is something to do with their hatred of Elon Musk. Elon Musk hates them and they hate Elon Musk, but that's not what they say. They say they're genuinely trying to protect women and children. That is Labour's line. Let's go to break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you why it is there's this prisoner in Guantanamo Bay, and the British government has agreed to pay him massive amounts of compensation for reasons that quite escape me. We'll talk about that next. The point being, this guy is a former client of the current Attorney General, the human rights lawyer Richard Hermer, Lord Hermer as he likes to be known now. We'll talk about that next. Somebody's tweeting me or texted me in with a message, no name on it. Put your name on it next time, but it's a good question. Hi, Kev. Do you really think the government is going to spend millions on something for it only to be optional? Actually, it's billions. The digital ID scheme will cost billions. Do I think the government is going to spend billions on something for it only to be optional? Yeah. Because they're backtracking, they're U-turning, they're going to save face now, wasting a load of money on something that nobody will take them up on. That's Labour for you. They're stupid. Let's move on. Stephen, I'm still with Stephen Barrett, political commentator and barrister. A couple of stories I want to just run by you quickly. A snapshot of mad modern Britain, if you like. First of all, your thoughts on Labour MP Damien Egan being banned from a planned visit to a school in his Bristol North East constituency. This happened last September. He was banned specifically because he's Jewish and is a member of the Jewish Labour movement. So basically, the Palestine Solidarity Bristol group got together with the National Education Union and banned this guy, Mr. Egan, from visiting the school because of his innate support for Israel's actions in Gaza. I mean, I don't know whether Mr. Egan supports Israel's actions in Gaza or not. His crime, I think, is he's a member of the Jewish Labour movement who had their conference, funnily enough, over the weekend when this horror, this atrocity was revealed. The teachers, he was banned apparently because his presence due to Gaza would be unacceptable to the teachers. The cancellation was celebrated on social media by the Palestine Solidarity Bristol group, which said it was a clear, I'm quoting here, a clear message that politicians who support Israel's action in Gaza are not welcome in our schools. That's anti-Semitism, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a real racism problem in this country with racism against Jewish people, and it's becoming impossible to ignore. I think it shames us as a nation. I don't want this. I don't want this to be modern Britain. I don't want modern Britain to be racist against anybody. But the only active racism we really seem to see day to day is against Jews. This is a Labour MP who had every right to visit the school. I do actually blame the head teacher, because a union can do whatever the hell it likes. A political campaign can make as much noise as it wants to. If the head teacher has a spine, the head teacher says it's my school and he's coming. You know, and that's it. And so I don't know who the head teacher is, whether it's a man or a woman. I don't know, but I do blame them. I think that they ought to have stood up against this, and I think far too often we are giving way to being cowards when we ought to stand up to racism, you know, and the sheer audacity of these people who no doubt would call us racist at the drop of a hat over anything, when this is really what's going on, and it's not acceptable. A British MP, frankly, of any standing, and there are some quite shockers, including amongst the independents right now, but they all ought to be able to visit a school, provided that they can talk to relatively old children, and provided the children are told that there are opposing viewpoints, and not indoctrinated. That's fine. That's engaging with democracy.
And by the way, the fact that Mr. Egan is a member of the Jewish Labour movement, who I said had their conference over the weekend when this fact emerged, it doesn't necessarily mean he supports Israel's actions in Gaza at all. So there are presumptions here. Now, bear with me, Stephen, because in fairness, I must read the statement from the National Education Union. This is from spokesperson at the press office, Caroline Cowie. The NEU is an organisation rooted in anti-racism in all forms, including anti-Semitism. The National Education Union head office had no knowledge that the school had rescinded the invite to the local MP until it was reported in the press yesterday. Indeed, the school is quoted as saying this was a decision that they took and the visit had been rescheduled. It is good that MPs, especially those in the party of government, seek to engage with schools, especially on issues such as the dire state of school funding, the intensity of teaching, and the impact of social media on young people. It is also legitimate for constituents to express their views to MPs on national and international issues, including the extraordinary human suffering in Gaza. The NEU believes in democratic engagement. Central to that is dialogue and discussion, and sometimes this will include a robust exchange of views. That's a statement from the NEU. Let's quickly move on, because I just wanted to get your thoughts on this as a lawyer, Stephen. The Labour government, the British government, has agreed to hand a guy called Abu Zubaydah. He was arrested in Pakistan in 2002 and has been held at the America's Guantanamo Bay detention center in Cuba since 2006 with no charges. America contends this guy is a threat, a danger to global safety. He's held there, of course, on terror suspicions. Now, I don't want to get into whether or not people should be held at Guantanamo Bay by America without charging. That's a different issue, a different discussion. But the point is, the Americans just keep him under lock and key. They say he's a danger. Nothing else to do, so he launched legal action against Britain, claiming that our intelligence services, MI5 and MI6, were complicit in his alleged torture. His lawyer, when he launched his case, guess who that was? It was Richard Hermer, the current Attorney General. He is not Mr. Zubaydah's lawyer anymore, of course. Now, the Tory government, when this guy launched legal action, just said, no, we're not giving you a penny. Naturally, Labour has agreed a substantial compensation payout to a man the Americans say is a global menace. Why are we giving this guy money?
So the shortest answer is that I think the Supreme Court messed up. Lord Sales tried to convince them that we had nothing to do with this, because we obviously have nothing to do with this, and we should have a functioning legal system with clear rules. But Lord Sales was in the minority, and the Supreme Court said that this man had been wronged. They did not call for any financial compensation. There is no reason to give him money. So I'm afraid, Kev, the shortest answer is that I think the government is unlawfully using taxpayers' money and giving it to a man the Americans think is a terrorist. And there's no other way to put that. That's what I think David Lammy's doing. Not only is he doing that, he's also refusing to tell anybody how much of our money he's unlawfully given to this man the Americans think is a terrorist. And, you know, that's where we are today. This is the clown country we live in.
And I think we need to, we the public, we the citizens of this country, need to have a discussion about the way this guy was treated so favourably, given that originally he was a client of the current Attorney General, Richard Herman. We need to talk about that. In the meantime, Stephen, what a fantastic hour. Always great to spend it with you. Thank you so much. Stephen Barrett there, barrister, political commentator and political social commentator as well.